Or the Apollo mission, a group of people saying, we hear you, we've got you. And all of our talents are on the line to get you home. That's teamwork. Think about the Beatles. All of that music that we know of theirs, all of it, was made in about 8 years. Just 8 years. They were that incredible as a team. Great teams, I mean, they're not about individuals melting into the team. That's the mistake. People hear about the power of teamwork, and they think it's about losing yourself to the singular goal. They think it's about fully giving in to something bigger than you. You don't lose yourself. Great teammates, they don't lose themselves. They stand up. They say, I'm here. They choose to be in, and they choose to play their unique part. That's how it works. So then what's the breakthrough? What did those teams see to unlock the full power of teamwork? You know, that's the hard part. You can't see the edge. You actually don't know where it is until you cross over and look back and see where it was. That's why it's always easier. I mean, it's always easier to catch up than it is to raise the bar. Because the team that broke through, they marked the line. And now everyone else, they just need to get over that mark. The Patriots, Belichick, Brady, I mean, what they've been doing is so unbelievable because they keep raising the bar. They keep nudging it higher. So even if people catch up, it's too late. You know, Steve Jobs and Apple.
For the first time ever, I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
They were operating in this abyss. I mean, they were out there in this vast unknown. So instead of breaking through, instead of seeing the line, you have to forget the line. It's just another limit. The marker in great teams is never external. Because you're out in this unknown. You're out in this unmapped territory. So instead, the power of teamwork comes from a belief. It comes from a mindset. We can't get satisfied by the breakthroughs. We can celebrate them. We should celebrate them, but we can't be satisfied by the limits. That's what humbles me the most about great teams. That's what humbles me the most about the power of teamwork. Because it's almost like you've got to operate in the darkness, knowing you're lighting the path for everyone else, and still heading out there, still pushing that edge. That's how to unlock the power of teamwork.
Big noise. Gonna climb so high, now we're rising up. Are you ready now? Turn it up.
Are you ready for this? Here we are live in Detroit. Of course, it's me, Jason, president of GoBEST, here to entertain you. We're gonna have a great cast meeting today, talking about all kinds of wonderful things I'll tell you about later. But for now, we're going to slide into some things you all should remember by heart by now. That's right. We're going to kick it off with our mission statement. And hopefully you're out there reading along or just saying it and memorizing it as we go. We deliver an immersive adventure, harnessing masterful showmanship, outrageous service, and an over-the-top experience. That experience is key to creating what is next, our best factor. Absolutely correct. You've got to have that best factor that is unbelievable. Hey, you guys are supposed to make things sweet. There you go. For all of our guests to enjoy. Now everybody back home is wondering, what is he talking about? There's no thing on there. Yes, this is it. The best factor, the excitement a guest feels from the moment they discover your venue. When do they discover your venue? It could be any time. Social media, driving by the sign, seeing it on the outside. There is any time that they discover you. That's when they first meet you. That's the discovery. And that is going to reignite every time they remember their experience. Double experience. We are all about the experience, people. That's what we're selling, the experience out there. And that's why guests will come visit our venues, because we have a rejection-free zone. That means everybody feels welcome. They all going to enjoy themselves. They all get to be great for that visit to your venue. Social interaction. If they didn't want to be around other people, they could have bought a beer and stayed home. They could have ordered their sex toy online. They didn't have to come see you. They came to see you because they want to be around other people. They want to interact. Live action entertainment. This is the key. I mean, this is what it's all about. The business that is the most fun is going to be the business that's most successful. The greatest movies are the ones you remember. The greatest shows win the Tony Awards. The greatest events are the ones people leave talking about. Be the greatest showman that you can. And show ladies, of course. And fantasy, that's what we're selling, people. We don't sell the sizzle, we sell the fantasy. We sell the imagination. We sell that experience that leaves you remembering things for the rest of your life. And of course, we want people to unplug when they come to our operations. They want to get away from their boring lives. That's why they came to you, to have some fucking fun. The last thing, fun, of course. Make sure it's over the top, exciting, energetic, enthusiastic. Blow their minds, folks. Blow their minds. And that's also how you become a great ambassador within your venue. If your focus is making sure people have fun, they have great service, and you're blowing their minds, you're giving them outrageous service, over the top experiences, if you are doing all of the things we talk about in the best factor and the mission statements and all of these things, then you're going to create guests. Those guests are going to want to come back. But in order to do that, it's going to start with that first impression. It's going to start with you doing the meet, greet, and seat. When somebody comes to the venue, you've got to do your part. You've got to get them in there and make them feel welcome. You can't be at the front being door gorillas. You've got to be door friendly, door happy. You've got to greet these guests like you would greet somebody if they're coming into your home. I was at some bars over the last couple of days here in Detroit, and the last one I went into, the guy literally grunted at me. He didn't even use words. He was like, oh. Like he wanted me to hold my hands up. That was it. I got a, oh. So I held my hands up. And then he patted me down. And the next statement, want a booth? I don't know what the fuck a booth is. I've never been to that club in my whole life. What do you mean, what's a booth? I said, no, I just want a table. I don't need a whole fucking booth. I just want to sit down. So he walks me over there and slaps the menu on the table. No explanation of why he slapped it on the table, but that was it. That was my spot. And then grunt went away. Don't be those people. That's what we can't do. That's not the level of entertainment and or hospitality that we expect for our guests. You've got to take it to that next level. This part of meeting, greeting, and seating is also giving a tour. It's not just showing somebody to their table. It's showing them your business. It's showing them your pride. It's showing them around your facility. Where's the restrooms? Where's the ATMs? Where's the couch dance areas? Where's the sex toys they like? Where's the biggest, largest, giantest dildo that they want to buy? You've got to find these things. You've got to get them excited about these things. This is what you're there to do, and this is why they've come to you. Go over the top. Live past the expectations of your guests. And then work with your entertainers, your IPEs, your showgirls. These ladies are there to be a part of our team. They're on the same team as us. You've got to make suggestions. You've got to help them understand. You've got to support them. You've got to care about them. You've got to take time to say hello and ask them how their family is. They're not the enemy. They're your friends. Don't treat them poorly. Treat your friends like friends. That doesn't mean I want you to take them all out to dinner. That doesn't mean you get to go sleep with them all. No, none of that. Completely the opposite. This is inside the club, being friendly, being gracious, being kind. And by doing that, when you have a chance to say, hey, we've got this new product we want help selling, they're going to be in on selling that. Hey, we got this new idea we want to try. They're going to be in on that because you've treated them with respect in the past. Therefore, they want to treat you with respect today. So it's up to you, the entire cast, to make sure all of the entertainers are in on this. And they understand the things that they can be selling out there and reselling. When there's a dance going on, don't be so quick to got to track the dance, got to be on top of the entertainers, that the entertainers don't get an opportunity to resell that dance. The worst thing for a guest, if you're in the middle of a dance, the entertainer stands up, boom, dance is over, bye, and takes off. Like that ruins the whole moment. All of the excitement, all of the action, all of the feeling, all the emotion is gone in that split second. And now the guest just feels used. If the dance is over, be polite, be gracious about it. suggest that your entertainers take them by the hand, escort them back to the table, see if there's anything else they want, see if there was another entertainer they liked. The romance is there. Let's keep the romance alive. And make sure that the entertainers have some idea how to do a tour. And if they don't, then suggest to them that they find your best tour guide. This is the guy, this is the lady, this is the server, this is the bartender that gives the best tours in the club. Anytime you have a guest that wants a tour, wants to see things, go see Kelly. Kelly's going to do a great job of giving them a tour. That's the person, that's the one you want to go to every single time. That's our go-to tour giver. So make sure that happens. And then we have the Sex with a Showgirl drinks. And this is a huge upsell in all of our businesses. These are conversation drinks. This is all about the guests having an opportunity to talk to the entertainer and the entertainer getting something for it. So they sell a conversation drink, a Sex with a Showgirl drink, a ladies drink. When they sell that drink, they get a bit of the commission, you get a bit of the commission, the club gets a bit of the commission. Everybody has a chance to make a little bit of money. So you want to get out there and make those sales. As I was in some clubs over the last month, the sales pitches on the Sex with a Showgirl were either zero or they were, you want to buy a lady a drink? What the fuck fun is that? This is not over the top. This is not fun. You know, make it exciting. Do you know what really makes Adia's panties come off? Whoa, she loves that Red Bull, and I'm telling you, she's gonna get naked in that VIP room if you get a Red Bull for her, because Red Bulls give most wings, but they take Adia's panties off. So that's the idea of making it a sales pitch, making it more exciting, making it fun, making it something that is excitable for people. You're not just getting them to buy a drink, you're getting them to buy an experience with one of your lovely showgirls, and that's why it's called Sex with a Showgirl. And we also have wonderful novelty glasses that you can order on GearMeUp.com for your business. If your managers haven't given you some sort of signature cocktail menu, a mocktail menu, and some sort of glassware, then you need to email me directly, cash@gobestbiz.com, because they are handicapping you by not giving you the tools you need to be successful cast members. I want you to be the best cast members you can be. I want you to be the most successful at the business that you can be. So I want to make sure you have all the tools necessary to do that job. And then we also now have this great platforms, all these websites, people you can follow online, they all talk about having a side hustle. We have a perfect platform for all of our cast members to set up an account, and I want all of you to do it. It's Unfiltered, unfiltered.com. You can go on there, you can set up an account, and you can do whatever it is you want to do on there. Whatever you're doing on social media currently, just move it over to Unfiltered. And now you have an opportunity to have a side hustle. If you like cooking in your kitchen, make an Unfiltered show about cooking in your kitchen. If you like feet, make an Unfiltered show about your feet and feet in general. Whatever it is that you like to do, whatever your passions are, put it out there on Unfiltered and have a chance at making a little bit of money doing it. The more there is out there, the more people talk about it, the more business we're all going to see. It does not have to be X-rated, people. You do not have to show your naughty parts to make money on Unfiltered. You can show anything you want that's entertaining and fun for everybody. So, that is what I have for you today. Now I am going to move this show over to our dear friend and our Executive Director of Operations, Miss Kiss My Ass, Kelly Skillen. Here you are, Kelly. Enjoy.
Thank you, Jason. That was a lovely introduction. Couldn't resist. I just want everybody to know how difficult it was to climb into that chair in any kind of remotely graceful way. We had to practice a couple times. I am here today with a couple of very smart gentlemen. Mr. Matt Hoffer. Matt, you can come in, don't be scared. Matt is an associate at Brad Schaefer & Associates. Many of you are familiar with him, perhaps more than you'd like to be. We also have today Mr. Zach Youngsma, also an associate at Schaefer & Associates. So the reason we are here today is to talk about a couple of legal matters that are of great importance to all of us. And we're going to start off with Matt, and we're going to start off with talking about two particular documents, incident reports and witness statements. For those leaders of you that are out there, you'll be familiar with both of these. For witness statements, most of you cast members are going to become acquainted with this at one point or another. And before I turn it over to Matt, I guess I just want to stress that the reason we're talking about this today is because some of the submissions that we've gotten recently have presented challenges, should we say, to some of the attorneys when it comes their time to defend the clubs. So with that, we're going to go back to basics. Mr. Hoffer,
Yes.
what is an incident report? What is a witness statement? And why do we care?
Sure. The incident report is the first and an important link in the club's risk management. This protects the club against civil suits. It protects the club against criminal actions that may come against the club. And the purpose of these, at least generally, is to identify the folks that are actually involved in the incident, the evidence that's relevant for investigating the incident, prevent the spoliation of evidence, which we'll talk about in a second, and to meet insurance policy reporting requirements, which are important, at least to me.
All right, so you said a fancy word. Spoliation of evidence. We also hear preservation of evidence. Can we explain what those are?
Sure. Spoliation of evidence, it's a legal term. So essentially what happens is if a club has notice of a claim, it has a duty to preserve relevant evidence. Typically what you're talking about in the context of a club is video. And you, upon being given notice of an incident, it happens in front of you, you've got a legal duty to preserve that evidence. And what happens if you don't preserve that evidence is called a spoliation instruction. That is, in a civil action, a jury can get an instruction that any evidence that you should have preserved but you did not preserve, the jury should infer that that would be negative to the club. So if the plaintiff is claiming one thing happened, the club is claiming something else is happening, or the venue is claiming something else is happening, essentially the jury will be instructed that since the club didn't preserve the video, you should assume that it would have been detrimental to the club. Essentially, that plaintiff's story should be believed. And that makes it extremely difficult to defend a claim. So anytime you have notice of a claim, you need to, or notice of any type of incident, you need to preserve the evidence. The example that I give was from a casino in Las Vegas, and there was a point in time where one of the servers tossed the water bottle to a customer who I believe was seated at a slot machine. The water bottle hit her and, I don't know, fell to the floor. And lo and behold, later on, the individual made a claim against the casino. And you know how casinos are. They have videos and cameras everywhere. So the court came to the conclusion that that patron being struck by a bottle of water was enough to put the casino on notice that the incident had occurred and that they should have preserved that video. And because it was not, the jury received a spoliation instruction. And it's also worth to note, as you may see in your screen right now, that it's your obligation as a manager of a venue, as part of your new hire paperwork, you agreed that anytime there is an incident, you would complete one of these along with the necessary witness statements, and that you'd preserve all of the relevant video. That duty is on you. It's important to the club, but it's important to the club's bottom line.
So I just want to clarify for a second, even if it's not on purpose, a piece of evidence gets lost, a piece of footage gets overwritten, and if you've received one of those notices, essentially the burden is now back on the club.
Yep, it's on the venue. It's a duty to preserve. There are some legal distinctions that aren't important here about negligent spoliation and purposeful spoliation, but either way the outcome is not good, and either way the duty is on you.
Got it. Okay, so this is very, very basic, but there is still, even amongst managers, I think there's still a little bit of confusion sometimes. What is the difference between an incident report and a witness statement? Can you walk us through them? Who fills them out?
Sure, and we see this all the time. We get incident reports that are filled out by everyone on the cast, or witness statements that are filled out by everyone on cast, rather than having an incident report. And you have access to both of these documents in your manager portal. On the screen, you'll see the top of each. They're pretty self-identifying. And the idea here is that the witness statement collects the information that filters into a incident report. So everyone who has firsthand involvement with an incident needs to complete a witness statement, and that includes the manager on duty. Just because you're filling out an incident report doesn't mean you're excused from a witness statement. And it's your obligation as the manager to get those from everyone who is involved. That's from everyone. That's yourself, employees, entertainers, patrons. And then what the manager should do is take the information from all available sources, so that's the witness statements, that's the video, that's what you've seen yourself, and condense that into the incident report. And the incident report itself should be a overall summary of the event rather than the detailed individual observations, which are what we want to see in the witness statements themselves.
So one incident report completed by the manager on duty, and then multiple witness statements from everybody. Could a witness be an entertainer? Right. Could a witness be a guest?
Absolutely, and these are important because some of the most important folks to get witness statements from are guests, especially the person that might later on claim an injury. Once the night is over, those guests are going to disappear. You're never, well, you hopefully will see them again, but there's at least
you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, and at least there's some chance that that later on you'll never be able to find them if you don't get a statement from them right there, because the witness statements require all the relevant information, their address, their contact information, all of that. And one of the most important persons to get a witness statement from is the injured person or the person that might claim to be a victim later on, because what they're going to say that night is probably going to be truthful, or at least a closer version of the truth than what they're going to tell you after they've had contact with an attorney, or more accurately, what their attorney is going to say happened.
Gotcha. So then that means the correct time to fill out a witness statement or an incident report is when?
As soon as possible.
So not tomorrow?
No. That night, before the night is over, the witness statements need to go out absolutely as soon as possible, and the incident report itself should be completed by the end of the night. And as we was reflected in our earlier slide, the thing to remember here is that you may not hear about this again until 2 or 3 years down the road. What we call a statute of limitations for a personal injury claim can be 3 years or longer. And if we don't get the information that night, not only are the patrons going to disappear, but employees may have moved on, different people may be gone, and quite frankly, memories fade. So if you don't get it right away, you're losing out.
So I guess not to sound too cynical, but memory fades and people conspire?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Excellent. I did get a question from the audience, which you guys are welcome to text me or type in the chat. But people have questions about the paper witness statements and incident reports that still do come over the transom from time to time. Are those discouraged? Are those allowed?
They are discouraged. Everything should be submitted through the portal. There is the option for at least the witness statements to complete those physically, especially when you're working with patrons. It's going to be easier for them to fill them out on paper than it would be to get to a computer terminal. But ideally, everyone fills that out on a computer terminal because they're fillable forms. They're a lot more legible. I can't tell you how hard it is to read different folks' handwritings. And so ideally everything is completed on the computer, and even if it's not, then it's scanned in and submitted along with the incident report. Do not send it to Modern, do not send it to any other place because that's going to ruin what we call the attorney-client privilege. I have that with you, Modern doesn't necessarily, so they need to come directly to me.
And that's going to happen automatically if you use the portal, correct? Awesome. Okay, that was the follow-up question. So I guess let's get into the key components of a successful witness statement or incident report.
Sure. We want to collect all the information from the witnesses. We want to know their personal contact information and what their relation is, if they're a patron, if they're an employee, if they're an entertainer. Second of all, we want a detailed account of the incident. And this is where we see a lot of failures in the incident reports, is we see people using words like aggressive and hostile rather than detailing what is actually happening in the incident. So if someone is yelling obscenities, or the customer is yelling obscenities at a door staff or the like. We want to know exactly what happened. So, don't say the guest acted aggressively. Say the guest was shouting, the guest got in the host's face, the guest tried to push his way in. Don't say the guest assaulted the host. Say the guest punched him in the face. If the guest used racial epithets, however you want to, censor it for the incident report, whatever you're comfortable with, that's fine, but just make sure the details are there, because things like aggressive, hostile, racial epithets, profanity, those don't come through quite the same as the actual details of what happened.
So I think what happens to people sometimes is, you're writing this document and you feel like you need to use these very intellectual sounding, multi-syllable words, and what you're saying is don't do that. You're
exactly.
not writing a novel. Write exactly what happened, not so much your opinion or your description or your editorializing of it.
Yep, leave the lawyer words to me, leave the big summaries to me. I want details. I can work with details. Details are, the devil's in the details, and that's what is important.
So I guess we talked a little bit about spoliation and preservation of evidence. There is a particular type of evidence which obviously is camera footage, and sometimes there's some confusion about that. How does that get preserved? Does it happen automatically? Who do you contact?
Sure, and this is probably one of the more critical pieces of evidence, because people lie, people tell different versions of the truth. Video, at least for the most part, doesn't lie, and your owner has probably spent an inordinate amount of money putting a surveillance system in your club, and we wanted to put it to use. So what you have in the incident report is a place to describe the actual where the incident happened, and how the process works is the incident report itself gives JC a way to actually find the relevant footage. So although the incident report should be good enough that we should be able to identify the folks and the incidents on the video, it's not that easy. It's a big club. There's a lot of different camera angles, and if you just write something like the sexy bar, I don't know necessarily what that is. It's not clear. So when you describe the camera angles in the incident reports, indicate some type of description of it along with the DVR and camera, that makes it very easy for us to find it. And then there's going to be a second step behind the scenes. That's where I and others work with JC to find the video and preserve it, and we'll get everything that's necessary. What we're looking for from you is basically something to tip us off, let us know where the incident happened, and then we can backtrack it from there. Give us just the important incident itself, and then we'll, on the back end, get a hold of the rest of the video. And JC Pomerleau would love to hear from you. He will help you. He is excellent with the video systems. He'll help you back it up. He'll help you find the camera angles that you need for the incident report, and you'll also tip them off that that's a video we're going to need in the future, which is important, because your camera system likely eats its tail after about 30 days or so.
JC wants to talk to you. Yes, and thanks for touching on that, because obviously this is one of the most time-sensitive pieces of evidence.
Absolutely.
In our discussion.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get to the fun part. Can you provide an example of
Yes.
something you should never do?
Yeah, hopefully the folks are looking at it right now. So this is one of my favorite examples of a poor incident report. First of all, this is better than a lot I've seen as far as legibility, but just the type of descriptions that are used in this incident. The gentleman became belligerent and aggressive towards Sean. Well, what did he do to become belligerent? Was he raising his voice? Was he swearing? What was he doing to be aggressive? We don't know. If you keep reading down in this, you see that the gentleman approached Sean in a hostile manner. Well, what in the world does that mean? A lot of different things can be hostile. Were his fists balled up? Did he take his shirt off? What did this guy do? And next, of course, Sean defended himself. Well, what did Sean do? Did he restrain him consistent with his training? Did he punch him? There's a lot of different ways that Sean can defend himself, and I need to know exactly what that is. And then The reason I put this one up there is because this was an incident where the gentleman claimed a bouncer blew out his knee, and so the final line here is the gentleman was then escorted off the lot, walking perfectly fine.
So that's an example of what not to do.
Exactly.
And the one thing that I do kind of want to add is I know that sometimes when we're asked to put these witness statements and incident reports together, we're hesitant because we feel like we're documenting something that may have a negative ramification for a team member or for another manager. You have to be honest in the incident reports and the witness statements. We are going to view the footage. We are going to see it. The best policy is always one of honesty, so at least we have the tools to be able to defend whatever is coming at us.
Exactly. Over-explain. Let us do the defending. We need the details to do it.
Gotta do it. It's not fun. So now I just want to jump over real quick to a new document that also lives on the manager portal. This is the high transaction statement, which sort of was spawned from the traditional incident report and witness statement, but it specifically applies to financial transactions, namely financial transactions involving VIP rooms. You want to take it from there?
Sure. So we have the high transaction statements, and the purpose of these is to protect the club from chargebacks. And chargebacks is kind of a vague term that refers to a few different things. A guest may call his credit card company and claim that, it wasn't me, the Shaggy defense. Or he may claim that he was liquored up, that he was too wasted to be able to consent to the financial transaction. So we need something to be able to defend against that. And also, as a matter of course, some of the credit card companies, with all of their fancy algorithms now, may do what's called an inquiry by itself, which means they will ask Modern to provide the details of the transaction. So we've always got to be prepared for that. And there was a point in time when we used incident reports for this. Don't do that anymore. It's the high transaction statements. The basics for producing or for preparing one are when you have a transaction of $1,000 or more, and you'll see as you work through the report that's available on the manager's portal that when there is a transaction of $5,000 or more, then we need to provide more details, and that is specified in the statement itself. And we're talking about the total that a customer spends. So if you have a customer spending $500 twice, we need an incident report. If he spends it 10 times, then we need more detail. And you should work through this statement once by yourself, just so you're familiar with the type of information that you need to provide. The first is going to ask you to provide in detail the transaction, and there you should kind of give an overview of what the guest did in the club. He came in, he sat at the bar, Kelly was his server, he went with, he was with IPE Crystal and Jessica. He decided to have a private dance with Jessica. And then for the transaction itself, what did you do to make sure this person was sober and competent to consent to the transaction? And you've all been given some type of alcohol training likely, and so you're going to want to describe what you did to make sure this person is sober. Make some small talk with them. Describe their appearance. Was their speech slurred? All of these typical signs of intoxication, you want to be able to negate them. And then when you describe the transaction itself, or what you did to make sure they understood the transaction, make sure you explain the items that were purchased, the total cost of that transaction, the running total from the night. Things like that are going to be very helpful when someone tries to make a chargeback. And then finally, there's a couple of, miscellaneous items. There are something I've been seeing from the clubs lately is problems with tips over 25%. So you have someone who has a $300 transaction, they leave a $100 tip. There are credit card companies such as Amex, which will actually require you to get a call and get a code to verify that transaction. And guess what? As a server, if you don't get that code and American Express rejects that tip, you're not going to get the money. And of course, if American Express requires a verbal authorization or the like, make sure you detail that.
Awesome. So we do have a couple of questions on this one.
All right, shoot.
The first thing is you said spend 500 twice. So is this a cumulative
Yes,
deal?
absolutely.
So you've got to keep track. Once somebody hits that $1,000, that magical number, that's what it is. Same number for all the clubs across the board. Doesn't matter if you're in Flint or Las Vegas.
Yes.
Deal. Well, let's see if we have another question.
Is this all transactions or just?
Got the, yep.
It should be all transactions. So it doesn't matter if it's just the purchase of alcohol. It doesn't matter if it's just the purchase of VU dollars or script. It should be all transactions because we don't know what the guest is going to contest. It may be the purchase of alcohol. It may be the dances. We don't know. If they can contest it, we have to document it, so it's everything.
And then again, there's a different threshold of information that's required. Once you hit the magical number of $5,000, then everyone involved in the transaction needs to fill out a separate form, correct?
Correct. The folks that were actually involved in the transaction itself should then fill out witness statements, which can be submitted along with the high transaction report.
1,000 short, 5,000 details. Easiest
Yes.
way to remember that. Excellent. Does anyone else have any questions for Matt Hoffer at this time?
I'm not seeing anything.
Awesome. Thank you very much then.
You're very welcome.
I guess we'll keep rolling right along. We're going to move on over to Zach. Hi, Zach.
My turn. All right.
Welcome to the legal panel.
Matt gets to be the bobblehead.
Yes, you did a good job.
It's a tennis match.
So for those of you who either weren't with us back in January or were with us but need a refresher, Zach spoke to us about sexual harassment, bullying, and disparagement. Well, we're going to talk about it again. But just to start off, kind of briefly walk us through what you focused on back at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so we were talking about building a culture of inclusion, and we talked about two topics that kind of were in opposite or complete opposite of inclusion, or things that will break down the sense of inclusion, and that was discrimination and harassment. So we define discrimination generally as treating people differently based on a protected class, be it race, gender, national origin, citizenship, sex, those sorts of things. And then under that broader umbrella, we also included retaliation, which was taking an adverse employment action against a cast member because they engaged in a protected activity, like filing an internal complaint or a lawsuit, those sorts of things. And then we moved on to harassment. We talked about two types of harassment. We talked about hostile work environment, which requires an unwelcome conduct based on a protected class, generally sex, attributable to the employer, and that is severe or pervasive enough to change the conditions of employment and create an abusive environment. And then we talked about the second form, which is quid pro quo, or this for that. You know, if you do this for me, then I'll promote you, that type of harassment. So.
Got it. So both of those are equally serious under the eyes of the law?
Yeah,
One's
the law
not
doesn't.
better than the other?
No, the law doesn't care. The law doesn't tolerate either.
So I guess today the area that we'd like to spend a little bit more time, and one of the reasons that I actually, suggested that we do this is a particular form of harassment, which is bullying.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about bullying because it is a subspecies of harassment. I would generally categorize this under the hostile work environment type of harassment, although, I mean, someone could theoretically do a quid pro quo harassment. I'll stop harassing you if this. The law's not going to like either one of those. And so, yeah, I wanted to kind of go through the employee handbook on some key sections. I wanted to give some examples, and then we'll talk about some consequences, and then how to report this if you're experiencing this.
So I guess we can dive into this because what a lot of our team members may not always realize is that bullying and disparagement can happen online, and quite frequently that's exactly how it's happening. So would you be able to speak to that, whether it be private social media, chat groups, employee chat groups?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to take just a quick minute to define bullying, and then
Absolutely.
We'll move into, I think that would be a great segue into the social media policy.
Segue.
So, okay, great. So bullying, I mean, everyone I think has a general understanding of what bullying is. You can probably think back to high school, and maybe you were the bully or you were the subject of bullying. So, but the employee handbook has a specific definition of bullying, and I think that's going to be on the screen here. So workplace bullying is intentional behavior that a reasonable person would find hostile, intimidating, offensive, or intended to create an abusive or hostile work environment. And then the employee handbook provides some examples of that. And so some of the key ones I've seen through the Club Concerns line are insults, rumors, yes, epithets, I may have butchered that word, stalking goes to online, and then another one I've seen is sabotaging or undermining an employee or an entertainer's work performance or opportunity for advancement. You know, again, it is a subspecies of harassment, so it does fall under that umbrella. But going to your question about social media, since the world is doing so much online, the club does have a robust social media policy. And I just want to pause real quick on the employee handbook. The version you signed may be a little bit different than the version you're seeing on the screen. The version on the screen is the most updated version, and there is going to be an updated employee handbook coming out. It's one of the ways we keep our jobs, by continuously updating these things. But the key excerpts of the social media policy are, it's on you to police your own social media conduct, and that includes on your own private socials. Examples of inappropriate social media use, you can see them on the screen, hopefully. Texting or emailing, messaging, WhatsApping, those sorts of things. It puts the company at risk, but it also puts you at risk, because as we're going to talk about, hopefully, you have some skin in the game here under the employee handbook and legally as if you're the harasser or the bully. So as you can see, you're required to ensure that your online activities does not constitute any sort of harassment, discrimination, bullying, retaliation, those sorts of things. And it's important to remember that just because you might have it private or not visible, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And as we'll get into, screenshots, everyone takes screenshots. Nothing's private anymore. Once it's out there forever. So.
Absolutely, and I did kind of want to bring that home, but I know you're going to give us some examples in a minute. Yeah, this idea that you're privately messaging each other out there, people screenshot stuff all the time, and it always, always, always ends up getting sent to us or the complaint hotline. So whenever you're committing anything to writing, it's to get the idea that privacy exists, because it doesn't. Let's talk about some specific examples.
Yeah, so hopefully you can see this on your screen, but I've got some great examples from some former cast members that we'll use to really drive this home. In all of these stem from work-related chats. So I know a lot of the clubs use WhatsApp to message kind of all the cast members of that club or venue. That's where a lot of these come from. So I've changed some of the facts just a little bit to kind of obscure who this may have been, but I think some of the managers might be able to pick up on some of this. So in this one, if we can go back, 6 bartenders of the cast they had their own work-related WhatsApp chat. They formed a subgroup and left out one of the bartenders, and then proceeded to talk about that one that was left out, and they used some colorful language. I don't remember the exact scenario, but I think one of the 5 ended up leaving the club not on good terms, and then took the screenshots, sent them in, and said, "Hey, all my former friends you should get them in trouble." So screenshots eventually made their way to the Club Concerns line, and we had to investigate. So one of the things I forgot to mention, something I was taught early on, is treat everyone with dignity and respect. So if you're doing that, you shouldn't run into this issue. So if you're treating, obviously they weren't treating each other with dignity and respect, because had they been, there wouldn't have been an issue. So I've got another example. I've got a total of 3. Again, a group chat. One member in the group chat went on a rant about how angry this person was with another cast member, and they then threatened them with physical battery. Not only is this not treating others with dignity and respect, but depending on the circumstances, there may be legal consequences. In this case, there was some underlying things that had been going on between the person that made that statement and the person that was the subject of that statement. such that that person that was the subject of the statement really believed that this person was going to come and physically assault them. Again, the screenshots made it to my desk. Best advice I can give you is if you just can't control yourself, remember, words spoken or typed in anger, is it worth your job? Is it worth, in extreme cases, paying monetary damages or potentially, being brought up on criminal charges? If that's not enough to stop you, I don't really know what is. Just treat everyone with dignity and respect, and you'll stay way away from this. A final example, and this is probably the most extreme example. Again, it comes from a group chat. Hopefully it's on your screens. You can read it. I won't read the colorful language, but
Why not?
I like the fact that they capitalized the last word to really emphasize how upset they were. As they always do, the screenshots ended up on my desk. The ranting cast member then justified their conduct by saying, I was joking. It was amongst friends. We were all in the group chat. Everyone knew I was joking. I was just messing around. And to that, I'll say jokes fall flat in court. A judge, they have the power of contempt. They're going to command dignity and respect. So if you wouldn't say it to a judge, don't say it to any of your fellow cast members, guests, or just really anyone.
So you touched on it, but I'm going to go back.
Sure.
Just in the event that anyone on this call would ever consider engaging in behavior like that, what are some of the actual consequences and ramifications of violating this policy?
Yeah, so obviously there's the employee handbook that you all signed in your new hire packet, and it discusses, what forms of discipline your employer can take, up to and including termination of your employment. And so I advise you to read that, but outside of the employee handbook, there's legal consequences, civil and criminal actions. So if you're communicating a threat or you're balling up your fists and charging at someone while screaming, those can be crimes, but they can also be civil suits as well, torts, assault, battery, those sorts of things. So the club has skin in the game, and so do you in this if you're engaging in this type of conduct. And
so are there really legal consequences, Zach?
Yeah, I found two cases quickly. So Barnes & Noble CEO was fired for the public humiliation of another executive and inappropriate touching and comments. These are recent cases. A janitor was terminated at the University of Wisconsin. So again, these are just losing their jobs. I would suspect if the conduct was significantly egregious enough, there might be other lawsuits brought individually by the person that was subject to that.
Yeah, and I've even seen recently social media used as a basis for a PPO.
Yep.
Again, jokes fall flat in court.
Yep. And on that, courts are going to read the screenshots, and so there's no context. It's not like the spoken word, like you're seeing and hearing us now. There's some context. It's just what's written in those screenshots, and it tends to not go over well.
The humor doesn't come across. I guess even more importantly than the consequences are, if you are experiencing some type of harassment or discrimination in the clubs, what should you do?
Well, it would be my hope that that's not going on. But if it is happening, we advise a gradual escalation approach, right? Start with the lowest level. Due to cultural differences in upbringings, those sorts of things, the person that is bullying you may not know that their behavior is inappropriate. So if you feel comfortable, approach that person calmly and just say, hey, you made these comments or you're saying this in the group chat, can we just knock it off and work together? If that doesn't work, then go to your immediate supervisor. That should clear it up at that level. But if for some reason that doesn't work, go to your GM. The GM can drop the hammer if they need to. If the GM or the supervisor are the harassers, or you just don't feel comfortable going to them for some reason, you can always call the Club Concerns hotline and you will get me. I will say, you call the hotline, you're probably going to talk to my secretary. She's going to take a note, and then I'm going to schedule a time to call you back. The quickest way to get direct to me is using that email, info@clubconcerns.com. There's only 2 people in our office that have that access to that email, and it's me and one of our support staff. So what to expect when you contact the Club Concerns hotline, you can expect confidentiality to the maximum extent possible, okay? Some of these venues are fairly small, not very many employees. It's, you know, you start talking to other witnesses and they can pretty easily figure out what this is about. I do my best to keep it confidential unless you tell me it doesn't matter. I'm going to schedule a return call from you and I'm going to ask the details, a lot of what Matt talked about. I review incident reports and what's the one the manager fills out?
The incident report.
Incident reports and the witness statements.
statements.
There we go. All right, so I review.
Good we did this.
Yeah, right. Instead of bobbing along, I should have. Yeah, listen. No, I review those. I review the video footage that was pulled, and if video footage wasn't pulled and it's still available, I request that video footage. And then, you know, I type up a preliminary report. I say, hey, this is what happened. I recommend we do a further investigation, or I recommend we talk to this person, or get more information through these avenues. And eventually, I make a final report and recommendation to Jason, Kelly, Adia, someone, and or maybe your GM, and then it's up to them what happens from there. I want to emphasize that there shouldn't be any form of retaliation for using the Club Concerns hotline. That's what it's there for. We want to know if there's issues going on in the clubs. That said, the Club Concerns hotline should be used for these types of incidents: discrimination, harassment, bullying, those sorts of things. There are other options for reporting more operational concerns. You know, if someone's stealing something from the club, that's an operational concern and should be brought up through those channels.
Yep, I definitely did want to touch on that, because the one thing I can attest to personally is the seriousness with which these complaints are treated by Zach. Everything has to be investigated, everything has to be looked into, as it should be. So with that being said, we want to make sure not to abuse the complaint hotline. A server who's upset with her schedule is not necessarily a concern for the complaint hotline. Server whose schedule got changed because her boss asked her out and she said no, that would definitely be a club concern for the complaint hotline. So if you're not sure, we understand, and we'll do our best to kind of get the complaints where they need to be. But just that's sort of a general guideline that you should keep in mind, because a lot of time and resources are spent investigating these things. So I guess if there's any kind of one takeaway from today, what would it be?
Could I have two?
Fine.
All right. Two takeaways. Things get screenshotted, all right? It's going to come on my desk. I'm going to see what you said. And then number two is treat everyone with dignity and respect. You'll stay far away from if you're doing that, you'll stay far away from any issues. You'll be able to watch the culture of inclusiveness grow at your venue. Your work satisfaction will grow, and you'll experience more success in this company.
Awesome. Do we have any questions on your side? My phone got really quiet during that discussion.
Yep. I don't have anything in the group.
I'll take it as I just nailed it.
It's quieter than the Club Concerns line.
Yeah,
I nailed it. Awesome. Well, I guess I have to excuse these two wonderful gentlemen. Thank you so much for being part of the legal panel. I can't wait to do it again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm going to talk to you for a second while we do a quick mic swap on the side, because I love what Zach just said about creating a culture of inclusion. And it made me also think of something that Jason was saying in his opening remarks about being a good ambassador. So I think the only way to follow the guidance, the legal guidance that we got today, is really if we do cultivate a culture of belonging and a culture of inclusion. And one of the ways that we can do that, and it's not something that we're telling you to do, it's not something we can really even ask you to do, but there's two parts of being a good ambassador. One is being a good ambassador in the club, just like Jason talked about, being able to give a tour, being able to show all of our guests all the awesome things that the clubs offer. The second side of that coin, like I said, is really not something that we can compel you to do. This is something that if we do our jobs and create the kind of culture that we were talking about, you're going to want to do on your own. You're going to want to do it naturally. And that is, if you have so much pride and so much enthusiasm in the place that you work and respect for the people that you work with, you're going to want to go out on your day off and you're going to want to talk about the place that you work. When you meet new people and that dreaded question comes up, what do you do for a living? You're actually going to want to tell them. You're going to want to talk about the clubs, and we're faced with a lot of misconceptions. So you're going to want to educate people. You're going to want to explain that the clubs are beautiful, that they're clean, that they're safe, that we don't exploit women, that we are not a bunch of traffickers. And you're going to want to invite people, tell them it's couples friendly, tell them that it's a great place for service industry just to come and chill out after a long shift. Those are the types of things that you can do. And by doing that, you help us recruit, you help us find new talent, new prospective entertainers, cast members, you get us new guests, and our guests become our friends and they become loyal. And you can really only do that by getting out there in the world. It's not going to happen in your basement. So we want you to feel enthusiasm and pride for the place that you work. We want you to get out there and spread that message. And so however you do that in your own way, it's not just like running up to somebody and giving them a pass. You literally have to feel it in your heart. And that was just my final thought for today. I think I get excused now. I'm going to throw it over to Adia, who's going to give us some shout outs.
Well, hello, everyone. Yes, I get to talk about
Welcome.
how great our network of venues are. So, shout out week 25, Larry Flint's Hustler Club, Washington Park. Great job. They are on a 1-week streak for beating their week's best. Fantasies Traverse City. You guys hit an historical best. This is the second time that Traverse City has hit an historical best, and they are also on a 2-week streak. Showgirls Kalamazoo, great job. You're on your 1-week streak. Love Boutique Lansing as well. Great job, 1-week streak. And now let's shout out our social media shout outs. We have some new ones in our consistency shout out. Love Boutique Shreveport and also Love Boutique Shreveport and Boutique Erotica. Great job. You guys got the consistency shout out for giving some amazing content in social media. Most Improved, Little Darlings, Deja Vu Showgirls, and OKC, and the Love Boutique Flint. Honorable mention, Larry Flint's Hustler Club, Las Vegas. Great job on your social media, and we're excited about all of you guys upping the social media game. And now, our favorite part. So this is our all-cast meeting, the first all-cast meeting for Q3. And we want to shout out the Q2 superstars. So starting with Brittany Carollo out of Las Vegas, Larry Flint's Hustler Club, Las Vegas. Leela Sock, bartender, Paradise Lounge and Grill in San Diego. Zachary Dunlin, MIT, Deja Vu Showgirls, Kalamazoo. We've got some woos in the back for you guys. Craig out of Deja Vu Showgirls, Kalamazoo, our entertainment engineer. Woo! Tree Miller, manager, Larry Flint's Hustler Club, NOLA, who I'd like to give a special shout out because reading the nightly reports, his are always fun and engaging. Chris Tryon and Little Darlings OKC, barback, great job. Ariana Martinez, cocktail server out of Larry Flint's Hustler Club, New York City. I'm now holding for applause, you guys. Ty Freeline, manager, Deja Vu Showgirls, Kalamazoo. E-Man, entertainment engineer out of Deja Vu Showgirls, Lansing. Tiffany Fernandez, server out of Larry Flint's Hustler Club, New Orleans. Anthony Flynn, otherwise known as Old School, entertainment engineer out of Larry Flint's Hustler Club, Washington Park. Zajana Smith, bartender, Larry Flint's Hustler Club, Shreveport. Megan Masters, bartender, Larry Flint's Hustler Club, Washington Park. Shane Jenkinson, VIP senior host at Larry Flint's Hustler Club, Las Vegas. Christina Garcia, supervisor at Larry Flint's Hustler Club, also in Las Vegas. Emily, manager, Love Boutique Shreveport. Elena Chappell, assistant manager in Love Boutique Shreveport. And one of our new GMs, Marcus, the new GM at Fantasies Traverse City. And congratulations on your historical best. All right, guys. Being a superstar is not a function of circumstance. It's not superstardom. Superstardom, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious change and discipline. So, continue to be a great superstar, and I am going to hand it off to Jason Money.
All right, that was it. That was pretty much the entire cast meeting. Things to remember and get into great detail. Do a great job when you're filling out any report, whether it is your nightly report, a witness statement, an incident report. Do it in detail, make it legible, make it easy. Odds are it's going to come back in your lifetime. When you do something online, remember it takes a second to do something online and it lasts a lifetime. So be careful with anything you're going to do online because it will come back to visit you again for sure. And there's a lot of videos out there talking about the new techniques that people can do with AI to change your face to do anything they want with it. So be extra careful with what you're putting online and pay attention to your image. When you're out there, make sure you're branding wisely. Make sure you're being a part of our industry. Make sure you're being a great ambassador. Make sure you're doing your best. Because you do your best as an individual, we become the greatest. We become GoBEST as a team. Remember that team spirit out there, working together, making everybody be successful, being the best of all the best that we can be. And I will see all of you out in the field. Thank you so much for spending the day with us. And that's it for today. Goodbye from Detroit, the Motor City.